Welcome to hour number 2 today of Blue Collar Sports. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Once again, we are a sports radio show down here at Boise State University, down here in the Pulse Radio studio. Cold day out there today, but nice and sunny. I thought it was going to be a worse day this morning, that's for sure. But it turned out to be pretty nice. I'm your co-host, Seth Newville, joined here with co-host Trevor Brennan. We appreciate you guys tuning in today. If you're tuning in through Twitter, you can see us right now. It's been a great show so far, Radio FX. We hope you guys are listening. We've been mapped out a great show. All NBA first hour. We got some NFL now before we go back towards the NBA. Thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely. It's been a great 98 show with you guys. Like you said, all NBA in the first hour. We went over the big trade deadline news. That deadline has passed now, and no Anthony Davis deal. We'll get to that later of this hour.
Yeah.
Then we talked about the trade, or we talked about the NBA All-Stars, the whole weekend going down next weekend, and then we had our own NBA All-Star Draft. Of course, Team LeBron versus Team Giannis. That will be airing tonight on TNT. Can't wait for that one. But now let's change it up a little bit. We had the Super Bowl. We talked about that on Tuesday. Now we're getting into the offseason. What's the biggest NFL news going down in the offseason? And we're going to have next segment 5 offseason questions in the NFL. What are the biggest storylines headed into it? And then, of course, our last debate, or our last segment of the hour will be our debate. It's going to be a good one. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah, lots of great stuff still to come on the show. Definitely stay tuned. Right now, we're going to talk about some NFL news that has surfaced ever since the Super Bowl. It is time to enter the offseason. Draft coming up, free agency, lots of big questions this year. Going to be an interesting offseason for a couple teams. That's what we're going to hit on first. First one is one I know we kind of have two different opinions on, as we do with a lot of sports things.
Yeah, pretty much everything.
Pretty much everything. But that is the Philadelphia Eagles situation. I got a couple friends that are Eagles fans, so we hope you're tuning in right now. But big controversy now. Nick Foles almost delivered another playoff run for the Eagles, got another win in Chicago before falling short to the New Orleans Saints. But Nick Foles, no Carson Wentz again. He was hurt again for the remainder of the year. Nick Foles made another run after the year after being Super Bowl MVP. They announced that they are going to franchise tag him, which will be open to trading. Looks like it's going to be a sign and trade type deal with Nick Foles. Do you agree with this move, and where are some fits?
In this move, I definitely agree with the Philadelphia Eagles signing Nick Foles however they can to trade him, because they believe Carson Wentz is their guy now. I know they had success with Foles. They won the Super Bowl with him, but Carson Wentz is their guy. I know he's been injured. He was 2 years ago. He was this past season, and but they do believe he will be their guy moving forward. He's still super young. They loaded up in the draft to be able to go up and get him, and they will believe in him. He's more athletic than Foles. He's younger. He is their guy moving forward. And so they need to find a spot for Nick Foles. They're going to sign him. They're going to trade him. And there's going to be a lot of suitors for him. I believe that. Miami Dolphins are looking for a quarterback. They could wind up with him. The Jacksonville Jaguars will stay in Florida. They're looking for a quarterback. So I think one of those teams will be a very good option here. He's a very smart quarterback. He could do a lot, but he's not going to go out there and be able to win you games like Carson Wentz can. It is a very huge risk that their Eagles are going with right now, but I believe it's the correct decisions.
Yeah, I know. I got a little bit different take on here. Nick Foles is a legit quarterback. He is a starting quarterback in the NFL. I firmly believe that he's better than, I'm not going to say half the NFL quarterbacks, but probably close to half the NFL starting quarterbacks.
I don't know if I agree with you on that one.
He's got a Super Bowl MVP, and I think the Eagles. I'm not saying the Eagles should start him. I do think Carson Wentz is the starter in Philadelphia. If Carson Wentz is healthy, I'm starting Carson Wentz. But I'm starting to get a little skeptical of the fascination with Carson Wentz because Nick Foles has played better with Philly. He won a Super Bowl for them. This team, even this year, struggled early with Carson Wentz playing, got hot at the end of the season once Nick Foles was their guy. Carson Wentz is more talented. There's no doubt about that. But this team seems to play better with Nick Foles. I don't understand why you necessarily need to trade him. I know he takes up a good chunk of money compared to other backup quarterbacks around the NFL. I understand that. But I disagree with the idea that you need to trade him. He's the best security blanket in the NFL. He's the best handicap at the quarterback position. Something happens to Carson Wentz, which we haven't seen him really be able to finish an entire season. you could still rely on making a postseason run and going for the Super Bowl with Nick Foles at quarterback. The roster around them is good enough to really compete with either quarterback. And I don't trust Carson Wentz. I'm not willing to put 100% trust into him yet because he hasn't finished the season, and he kind of struggled for the most part last year. I would keep Nick Foles. I would start Carson Wentz, but you can't find a better security blanket than Nick Foles.
Yeah, for me, what I was able to hear doing some research is that the Eagles, they found more opportunities with Nick Foles. He was more open to the playbook, more options for that offense to succeed with Nick Foles. And that's because Carson Wentz is a little bit more talented than Foles. He believes he has his plays that he can go out there and succeed in. And that's what comes with a more talented player versus a player that needs to be coached up a little bit like Foles. Foles needs that offense to help him, and that's what it really helped the Eagles. That's why they were a really good team. But with Carson Wentz, he knows he's good enough to go out there and win games himself. Maybe a little too much. Maybe he needs to be open more to the playbook and help his team out a little bit. But if he's able to do that, he's for sure the starter, and he's going to help this team. And I think the Eagles are set up for a really good year next year. They've done everything correct. Finished the season strong this season. I think Eagles will be one of the sleeper teams next year.
Potential landing spots for Nick Foles, you talked about it. I'm going to talk about potentially more about it next segment, but I think Denver makes a lot of sense for Nick Foles.
You already got Nick Foles and Case Keenum. That's the thing.
I think Foles is better than Case Keenum. He's one of those guys I would say is better than a starting quarterback than the one they got in Denver in Case Keenum. And it makes sense. That Broncos team is built a lot like this Eagles team. They got a good O-line, defense-oriented, and they still got weapons outside. So I do like that fit. I got a question about Denver coming up for you when we get to our questions about the top 5 questions in the offseason, so I'll save that talk for then. So I would like to see Nick Foles get a chance to start somewhere else, but I think the best move if I'm Philly is keeping him intact, keeping him in Philadelphia. You're not going to find a better secondary option.
Yeah, I understand trading him if you're not going to be able to use him if you have Carson Wentz, but maybe until we know Carson Wentz is fully healthy, maybe I would keep Foles as a backup for now and see it just play out. Maybe trade him during the season next year if you need to. So I probably would ease the brakes on it right now, keep him for a while, and then see what the market is like.
Eagles got a lot of questions coming up, that's for sure, but perhaps the team with the most questions is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They find themselves in yet another similar position. Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, still a messy situation. What are your takes on that?
Yeah, I don't like where the Pittsburgh Steelers are at right now. One of the most talented teams in the league. I thought they could make a run for the Super Bowl, but just too many off-the-field issues going on right now. Antonio Brown may be involved in a domestic abuse case. We don't know all the details about that yet, but I don't really believe he wants to be in Pittsburgh anymore. So I think the Steelers need to move on from him, find a trade partner. Before the draft, they need to get some draft picks here and load up on a young core. Big Ben's closing down. It's probably coming down to the end, a couple more years. They got young talent in T.J. Watt on defense. They got Juju, a very nice receiver. So they're a younger team now than they used to be, and I think if you're able to trade Antonio for some draft assets, you're going to be able to build a younger squad and start building up now. After Big Ben had a great run, won a couple Super Bowls, but now it's trying to move on from that. And of course, we know Le'Veon Bell, he's set out for the year. I think it's time to move on from him also. I don't know exactly what they're going to be able to do here, if they want to sign him and then trade him, or if Le'Veon's going to be able to become a free agent himself and go elsewhere. If you're able to trade Le'Veon as well, I would do that.
Yeah, they got a lot of question marks. And I think what makes their position so tough is, like you said, they can go young. They can go rebuilding. They got young pieces there. Juju, I think, is ready to step into that receiver one role. I don't think he'll be as productive as the number one receiver, but I think he's ready to take that challenge on. They still had a good year in terms of their run game. It really didn't lose a lot without Le'Veon. Mm-hmm. But they're in a weird situation where, like I said, they can go younger. They got young pieces where if they trade those guys and get draft picks, they can start to rebuild. But they're also in a situation where if they were somehow to keep Le'Veon and Antonio, they could still contend for a Super Bowl without a doubt.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is tough, but it's looking like that time is over. Those guys aren't happy. Antonio Brown, I think, definitely wants out. Le'Veon's wanted out for the last couple of years. So it's tough being the GM there and the coach and Tomlin. because you know how good this team can be if everyone were to gel. But they have already failed at that, so I do think it's time to move on and maybe get younger. Where are some potential fits you see for Le'Veon and Antonio Brown?
Yeah, for Pittsburgh, it is time to move on for both of them. They didn't fit. It's unfortunate that they couldn't fit, but they just brought a bad energy, so they need to move on from that, regroup, and become a new team. So for Antonio Brown, let's start with him. They need to trade him. I know Antonio's expressed interest with San Francisco and the 49ers. I think that'd be a fantastic fit. Jimmy Garoppolo needs that number one target. They really have nothing else to help him. So if you're able to get some picks for Jimmy Garoppolo from the 49ers for Antonio Brown, I think it'd be a really good spot for him. We saw Amari Cooper go for a first-round pick earlier this year from Oakland to Dallas. So Antonio Brown, I don't know exactly what the market's going to be like, but because of his off-the-field issues. But if you're able to get a first-round pick, the 49ers will not give up their I believe they got the second overall pick. Mm-hmm. I don't think they should give up that for Antonio Brown, but possibly a couple twos, and then maybe even next year's one. If you're able to do that for Antonio Brown, I would try and do that and push that. But Antonio Brown could go anywhere. He is that good of a receiver. He could fit with any team. But I think 49ers situation would be the best fit for him. And for Le'Veon, I think he's going after the money. That's what I mean.
He lost a lot this last year.
That's why he didn't really play for the Steelers, I believe. So he's going after money. And who are two teams that have a lot of money this offseason? That is the Indianapolis Colts and the New York Jets. I think he'll be one of those teams next year. I think if the Colts can figure out a way to add a defense and still get Le'Veon, I think it would be a great option. With that offensive line, I think it would be fantastic for him. It's going to help Andrew Luck in the passing game, and that's really going to take off this Colts team if they're able to get Le'Veon Bell, and if he's still in shape, which I hope he is. So I think Le'Veon will be a Colt next year, and I think I'm very excited for the Colts next year.
Yeah, I know he's talked about New York a couple times. He's always wanted to play in New York. Obviously, Giants aren't an option with Saquon, so it would have to be the Jets. Indianapolis is without a doubt the best fit for him. There's no doubting that. They've got a great young offensive line, obviously led by Quentin Nelson, and what a season they had. Good young defense, and Andrew Luck, a guy that could really be perfect for a running back, especially Le'Veon. He makes the quarterback better as well because he's a great receiving back.
Yeah.
So I think that's all in all a win-win situation. That would make them true Super Bowl contenders. Antonio Brown, I like the San Fran fit. I still don't think they're a playoff team with him. I'm not ready to put them in that conversation yet. I don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo quite yet. I know that was one of our debates. And to be honest, if I'm a team, I don't know if I want to give up a lot for Antonio Brown. Yes, he's very talented, but he's got a lot going on off the field. I don't know if I want to give up a lot of draft picks and go out and pursue a guy like that.
I definitely would not do that for a receiver. We see the two Super Bowl teams in the Patriots and the Rams. And the Patriots, they got great players. Julian Edelman's not a star receiver. He was drafted in the 7th round. He was a quarterback in college. You could transition athletes into receivers. The Rams, I know they had Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods, but who were they missing in the Super Bowl? That was Cooper Kupp. They need slot guys. So I wouldn't trade too much for Antonio Brown. Of course, you would love to have him, but there comes a time when it's too much. And if they can't give up all their assets for Antonio Brown, then I would not do the deal. But I think Antonio Brown can play anywhere if the team is willing to deal with his off-the-field issues.
Yeah, definitely a lot of question marks there. I can't wait to see how that unfolds. I just want it to be over. All these serious guys just go away. I'm ready to end that conversation. That is for sure. Real quick before we head off to break, Bob Stoops coaching again.
Yep.
This time in the XFL with Dallas. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The XFL, I believe, starts in 2020, so interesting to see that, and I think it'll be a good job. Maybe Dallas is the early front runner to win in the XFL the first year of existence. I believe it's the American Alliance of Football is coming up very soon, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays. I believe CBS has the rights to TV on that one. I'll be watching those games, seeing how the talent is and seeing what the football is like in that new league. So I really like how they're exploring new leagues in football, and I think it will be fun while the NFL is in their offseason.
Not sure if you guys have seen it. I know we have. Patrick Mahomes is quite the basketball player as well. Posted that video of him with a nice spin move, lots of good handles, and finishing at the rim. Chiefs GM comes out today, says he will not be hooping anymore. Do you think they should have that much control?
Yes, I do. I don't want my star player playing basketball or doing anything extreme. They already know they're going to pay him a lot of money. That was their MVP. He cannot go down with a torn ACL or anything bad like that. I know I need to get ready for our basketball season, so I can't be skiing anymore either. So you don't want to get injured in another sport while you're playing in a different sport there. So I think it's good that Patrick is off the court.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing. Kyler Murray, if you're listening, in football they shut this down. In baseball they let you go mountain bike riding like Madison Bumgarner did.
Yeah, don't do that.
Didn't pan out very well, but it's something to know for sure. But stay tuned. We're going to talk about Kyler Murray. We're going to talk about lots of NFL offseason questions. We got 5 questions coming up on big-time headlines heading to the offseason. Stay tuned.